welcome to another week. Hope you're all okay at home. I'm just going to record now the first video for our writing this week, which is going to look slightly different, and I do hope that you're going to enjoy it. It's going to be linked to our class text, Private Peaceful, so the text that we were reading in school before you all sort of went home and we went into the lockdown. So hopefully you're going to enjoy this and get quite a bit from it. So you can see that this week our new genre is going to be diary entries, and there's going to be 3 videos this week to help you with your writing. So there will be a video today, which is lesson number 1, which is all to do with the text marking and annotation, which you will be very familiar with from being in school. Lesson 2, which is the SPAG focus. There will also be a pre-recorded video for you to watch, and then there will also be a pre-recorded video for lesson 4, which will be the independent write, which I will talk to you about a little bit later. So, this week our focus is diary entries, and I know that loads of you will be familiar with diary entries and what the features are. So let's have a little look at the PowerPoint that you're going to work through. So on here, you can see that our learning objective is to identify the features of a diary entry. Now I know you're going to be brilliant at this, but we might need a bit of refreshing and a recap. Now on the page, I have put a text, a part of a snippet of a chapter out of Private Peaceful. And this is the bit that I want you to read, and it's all about the part where Charlie is sentenced to his death as a soldier for not following the instructions of the sergeant. So, because he's disobeyed the sergeant, he then gets sentenced to his death. Now I know some of you might not be familiar with that point, but that's why I've put the chapter in. So I want you to read that text there, because that's really important that you have an understanding of that chapter before we move on to the actual annotation. So you can see there are some questions for you to think about there. Have a read through the chapter, and then there's also a few more snippets on the next page, okay? So I'm not going to read that chapter to you because you can do that yourself so that you've got an understanding of what's going on. The bit that I want to talk to you about today is the actual annotation of a diary entry and the features that we're going to find. So I'm sure lots of you at home are able to already think about the features of a diary entry. So I'm going to give you now 30 seconds to have a think. If you can, jot down in your book, what do you think the features of a diary entry are? So I'll give you a couple of seconds to think about that. Think about the style that it's written in, think about who might be writing that diary entry, think about what features would you expect to find. And hopefully, in your book, you will have come up with some of the same features as what I've got here. So the first thing in a diary entry is that quite often you find that there's a chatty and an informal style. So the words are quite colloquial, so they might reflect the character's dialogue or their accent, but we don't really talk that posh in a diary entry. And the reason for that is because it's quite personal. It's a bit of an intimate account into one's thoughts and feelings. The second thing is the use of personal pronouns. So in your diary entry this week, I would expect to see words like I and my. You might name some of the other characters in the book, but predominantly you'll be writing from the viewpoint of yourself. Next bit, so here I've just mentioned that actually a diary entry is a bit of a window inside someone's brain. So this week, we'll be looking at the viewpoint of Charlie in Private Peaceful. So we'll be thinking about what thoughts and feelings were going through his mind at the point when he was being sentenced to his execution. Okay? We've mentioned colloquial style. Format, this is really important, the structure. So often with a diary entry, you find that at the very top you've got the date, then it says Dear Diary, and then we structure our writing into paragraphs. And 9 times out of 10, it's in chronological order. Now you will have heard that word before. Chronological order means in time order. So it's no good putting the last event in your diary entry in the first paragraph. The first event comes first, then the second event of that day, and then the third event, and so on. Okay? And then here, at the bottom, I've put a little bit about self-reflection. So actually, if you're writing from the viewpoint of a certain character, you might want to offer some ideas about what they're thinking in that moment, about their thoughts and feelings towards a certain event, so an opportunity for them to self-reflect. And then finally, at the bottom, focusing on our spelling, punctuation and grammar, you might want to include some detailed descriptions, i.e. expanded noun phrases, which I will talk about later, prepositional phrases, a range of sentence types, and thinking of that high level punctuation. So colons for clauses, colons for a list, semicolons, DD sentences, brackets for parentheses. Okay, so that's just a bit of a reminder about diary entries, and this is the bit here that I really want to talk about. So I'm going to perch myself down now, we're going to read this together, and then we are going to start the annotation together, and then you're going to go away and finish it off. So this diary entry here is actually taken from the Private Peaceful book, and again, you might not have read this in class as of yet, but that's because of the timing and everything else with you guys being at home. So I will fill you in on what it's about. You should be able to follow it hopefully as well, if you're able to get it up on your screen. So this is the part in the book where the diary entry is written from the viewpoint of Charlie. So have a listen and then we'll annotate together. It says, "Dear Private Peaceful, I am home again, as you can see, Tomo. Better late than never, as they say. I am the proud father and you are the proud uncle of the finest looking little fellow you have ever seen. I wish you could see him, but you will, and soon I hope. Molly tells me he is even more handsome than his father, which I am very sure is not true. Big Joe sits over him while he sleeps, like he used to do with Bertha. He worries I shall go off again soon, which of course I shall." So think about, why might Charlie be going off again at this point? We know that Charlie's a soldier, he's in the regiment, he's in the army. Obviously Charlie's now on leave and he's come to see his young son. He does not understand, how could he? Where we have been or what we have seen or been doing. I'd rather not tell him. I'd rather not tell anyone. After I came out of hospital, I managed to wrangle only 3 days leave, of which I now have only 1 day left. So at this point, Charlie has only got 3 days left. So you imagine, how would you be feeling at that point if you were Charlie? So you're the proud father of a newborn baby boy, and you've got 3 days leave, and then you are back on camp. I shall make the best of it. Lastly, you should know that we all have decided that the little fellow should be called Tomo. So think about, what might that mean to Tomo? We know the relationship between Tomo and Charlie as brothers, so think about that relationship there. Each time we say his name, it makes me think that you are here with us, as we all wish you were. Molly has said that she wants to write a few words also. So I shall end now. Chin up, your brother Charlie, or the other Private Peaceful. So for today's lesson, the bit that we're going to do together now, we are going to annotate the start of this diary entry, and then there is a second part where Molly writes a few words too that I'd also like you to annotate. So I'm just going to come out of this PowerPoint just so I can do the annotation with you, and I've got the exact same diary entry up on the board. So I want us now to think about the features of a diary entry. So the first thing that stands out to me, and we've done this lots in class, so I'm going to get my highlighter. The first thing I can see is there are lots of eyes. Now, if I was doing this from home, I might go back to my checklist. I'm just going to move back a little bit just because my keyboard's not connecting properly. And I can see there are lots of I's. Now, thinking back to my success criteria, I know that I comes under that remit of first person pronouns. So, a bit like we do in school, you can absolutely get a ruler, you can draw a line, and then you are going to label that given feature. So I think I'll do it in red, just so that it stands out. And at the sides, I'm going to put first person pronouns, such as I. Now, I always say this in class. It's okay to label the features, but in Year 6 we want a little bit more with that. So why are first person pronouns important? So I'm going to expand on that annotation there, and I'm going to put that actually pronouns allow us as the reader to here and access the viewpoints of Charlie. Okay, so there we have it. There's one feature already labelled and annotated. So if this was me, I would probably have a bit of a success criteria or a checklist in front of me to make sure that I'm ticking off the features as I annotate them. So we mentioned first person pronouns. We mentioned chronological order. We mentioned colloquial language, which we said was a little bit like slang, so informal language, a bit of a chatty style. You might also be able to identify the description and detail, so there might be things like expanded noun phrases. You might be able to identify prepositions or prepositional phrases. So there's a range of different things that you can be ticking off. You might, if it's in time order, be able to identify some time adverbials. So if this was me, I'd be ticking them off as I go. So, back to the text. I've now done first person, I'm going to carry on reading. Better late than never, as they say. I am the proud father and you are the proud uncle of the finest looking little fellow you have ever seen. Finest looking little fellow. So fellow is my noun, finest looking, little and fellow. I've got a bit of a noun phrase there. So I am now going to do the same again. I am going to highlight that section where it says finest looking. You might want to choose a different colour. That's absolutely fine. And then you're going to do the same again, and you are going to annotate the implications of that feature. So here I'm going to put noun phrase, provides the reader with detail of, I think I'm just going to move that just so I'm running out of space. I'll do it down here. Detail of the newborn baby. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there. You'll have more space to do that, but I'm hoping that that little model there will start you off for this session. So I'm expecting to see you annotating both texts. So it's the diary entry bit, it's not the chapter, that's just the pre-reading. So read the chapter first, then move on to reading the diary entry and annotate the features using the PowerPoint of what the key features of a diary entry are. But please make sure you are ticking your self-assessment as you go, so your success criteria, and that you are expanding on the bits that you've identified. So it's not good enough to just put first-person pronouns. What's the impact of those first-person pronouns? How are they impacting the reader? What effect does that have upon us as the reader? So I do hope that's made sense. Please tune in tomorrow for the next pre-recorded video. That will be a SPAG focus, and then there will be a third and final video for the week, which will be the first bit of the independent write, which will come on Thursday. So good luck, guys, and I hope you do a smashing job.